Hey everyone, I'm super excited to have with me Chen. She's an amazing mortgage broker. We broke bread, we talked about money, we talked about real estate, had a super fun time. So now I'm like, hey, everyone else should learn more about this amazing woman. So welcome, Caitlin. How are you?
Thank you, Lee, for having me. I am good. How about you?
Yeah, doing great. Awesome. So let's
Good.
just dive straight in. So,
Okay.
um, can you share with us a little bit like about, how you grew up and what was it like for little Caitlin?
Little Caitlin. Well, I was born in the United States in San Gabriel, California. Then, when I was 8 months old, my mom brought me back to Taiwan. I stayed in Taiwan until I was about, I think, 6 or 7 years old. And I came back, and here I am. I graduated from UCLA. UCLA is my alma mater. I graduated as a philosophy
Wow.
major. People ask me, what did you learn? I said, I learned about life.
That takes a lot of guts. So, from an Asian like parenting perspective, were your parents just super cool? Like I can't imagine my yeah, well, anyways. But yeah, how did they take it? Were you like, mom and dad, I'm gonna be a philosophy major? How did that conversation go?
It didn't go very well. Actually, I was brought up by a single mother. My mom wanted me to be a doctor. My brother is an optometrist, and I just can't look at blood. When doctors or nurses draw my blood, I'm like this.
That's
And
so
I
funny.
tried, I tried being a psychobio major, but then after a couple of years, I said, you know what, this is not me.
Mhm.
I like philosophy, and it was just easy A's for me. Most of my peers went to law school, but I ended up doing sales. I've been doing sales ever since I graduated college, or even prior to that.
That's awesome. Then can you tell us a little bit about like, okay, so you graduate from UCLA, philosophy degree. How did you go into the financial world?
Well, it was actually a little bit later on. I first worked in the manufacturing field and then the internet business. It was about a year, about 1997 to 2000 when I was in the internet business. I worked for a company doing sales. What we did was we sold online training for corporations. But then, of course, remember the dot-com bust? That was around 2000, and that's when I went into the mortgage business. I actually had a mentor that, well, they wanted to hire people with no experience. I have to admit that it was the LA Times. I don't know if you guys anybody remember out there. If you're not a millennial, maybe you'll remember. It's the papers that they throw in front of your door, right? And the classified ads. In the classified ads, there weren't that many ads for loan officers, but I've always been good at math. And I said, well, maybe I'll try to be a loan officer. And what I did was I just went down the list. None of them said they were trained. All the ads said, well, you need 5 years experience or more. And what I did, I know it was naughty me. I called and I literally told the secretary that I had 6 years experience. She said, oh, come on in. I said, okay. Well, I went into the interviewer's office before I sat down. I said, let me confess something. I really don't have any experience whatsoever. I apologize for lying to your office manager. However, if you train me, I will be your top producer. And he looks at me and he says, sit down. And an hour later, he hired me. And I
Amazing.
and
That
I
is a
did
great sales
promise,
story.
thank you. I did promise I'd be his top producer in 3 months, and I did.
Wow. So what do you think distinguish you from like a regular, maybe like not selling so well, regular mortgage officer? What's the difference?
The big thing I think that distinguishes me from maybe regular loan officers is I make sure my clients are taken care of. And you have proof of that from my Google reviews. I have all 5-star Google reviews. All you have to do is Google Caitlin Chen, mortgage broker, and you can see. no matter what, no matter how difficult the loan is, I walk my clients from beginning to end and I help them understand. It's as if I'm training them to be a loan officer, and I think they really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. And how did you get your very first clients?
Cold calling.
Cold
Back
calling.
then, it was literally calling from a title sheet with people's phone numbers. I don't know where the owner got his leads from. We had a marketing department that just handed out these sheets of paper with people's phone numbers. And I just called. That's how I got my first client, cold
That's
calling.
amazing. Wow. Wow. And I love the persistence and the tenacity that just, obviously paid off. And can you tell me a little bit about like what your thoughts on just this whole mortgage industry in general is like?
Well, I think the mortgage industry has slowed, of course. Most people probably have rates of 2 to about 3% right now. And of course, the mortgage business is still good. There are lots of clients that need cash out and of course to purchase property. Also, they've come up over the years with a lot of creative financing, especially for investors. And one of the big one is called debt service coverage ratio. It's stands for DSCR. DSCR stands for debt service coverage ratio. And what it is let's just say you have 10 properties. And that particular property, as long as the rents cover the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, that owner can refinance that particular property. They don't care about the other 9. If the other 9 is upside down, oh, well, it's okay. They don't check up
Wow.
on that.
Thank you for
It's very
sharing this. This is
creative.
insider information. I love it.
Yes.
So I also teach an Airbnb class, for investors. So I'm so glad that you're here. What would you say to people are looking to purchase for investing versus like first time buyers who want to, live there, for 10, 20 years?
Well, the big difference is the down payment. If you want to buy a single family home or a condo and you want to live there, you can put as little as 3.5% down with FHA financing. And with the home prices nowadays, putting 20% down is a lot of money if you think about it, right? A $700,000 home, 20% down is 140,000. Who has that kind of money sitting around? But of course, as an investor, you're going to have to put a little bit more down. The DSCRs usually are 20% down,
That's great.
ideally.
Awesome. And who were some of like your more memorable clients?
My most memorable clients are the ones that are most difficult. And of course, the most difficult ones probably are the ones that things come up. Things come up on title. One time, this was prior to 2008, probably 2004, 2003. I remember there was a lien on title from an HOA, and that HOA did not answer their phone no matter what. I called them hour after hour, day after day, week after week, and nobody answers the phone. They don't return my phone call. Anyhow, what I did was I had their address and I drove 2 hours to their office to get the payoff. No joke. And
Wow.
when I got there, I told her I drove 2 hours. She goes, "Well, I can't do anything until after lunch."
That
And of
sounds like an
course, I
HOA for
waited.
sure. That's an HOA for sure.
And I waited about 4 hours before I got the payoff, but I did it. I
Wow.
did it for my client. And that was my actually most memorable client.
Amazing. You're a queen, I don't know anyone who would wait 4 hours, drive 2 hours. That is amazing. I love it. And
Yeah.
wow, yeah, I just wanted to take a moment because I was like, that's professionalism right there. And you talked a little bit about creative financing. Can you tell us, like, for people who are watching, maybe they don't know what it is. Can you tell us what it is and like kind of what is an example of it?
Sure. Sure. Creative financing is anything that's out of the norm. For example, conventional financing is usually the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loans. We have VA, FHA loans, but anything that the government doesn't buy, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, it goes into it's called creative financing, mainly because the banks that finance it will have to hold that loan for about 30 years. They won't be able to sell it on the secondary market. And that's kind of why they call it creative financing. And we do have also no doc loans. No doc loans are, they don't check up on where you work, how long you've been there. As long as you have good credit, 20% equity, they can lend to you.
That's
And there's
great.
all kinds of stuff. There's also bank statement loans where they use your business bank statement. If
Mm.
you're a business owner, you write everything off. Unfortunately, you won't be able to buy a $1 million home if that's the case. But if your business takes in a lot of deposits, then you probably could.
That's awesome. And can you walk us through the process of like working with a mortgage broker? Because I think probably a lot of people watching are millennials, first time home buyers. They don't know what the process is. They're scared to even start. Can you walk us through the process?
Sure, the process is really simple. Well, first, you have to call me and I will give you a little consultation, give you some maybe identifying questions to see if purchasing a home is right for you right now. And for example, basic questions that I ask is how much down payment you have, how long you've been at your job, what is your goal, how long do you plan to stay in the home? And those are preliminary questions. And once we get that through, then I'll take an application, run your credit. Then I'll collect documents, for example, your W-2s, if you're self-employed, tax returns, a copy of your driver's license, bank statements, and things like that. And then I can calculate and give you a, a maximum threshold of what you're approved for. Now, with that letter, that pre-approval letter, I can give it to you and your realtor. And with that letter, the realtor, it'll be easier on the realtor to know what price range to look in.
Right. And we should go to you instead of the real estate agent first, because, if you don't have the money to buy the house, unless you're a cash buyer, in that case, awesome. But most people, 99% is,
Right.
they need to come to you before they come to, an agent. So I'm glad that you talked about that. And what do you wish like your agents and first time buyers like would know before they come to you? Or through the process?
You mean the clients or the
Yeah, the
realtors?
clients. What do you wish they knew more about the industry, or, paperwork, or, some common knowledge stuff that would make your life easier if they knew?
Let's see, to make my life easier. Well, I don't really expect the client to know much. I was a first time home buyer at one point and I didn't know anything.
Mhm.
All I knew was there was FHA financing for first time home buyers.
Mhm.
That knowledge I kind of read over the internet,
Mhm.
but everything else to walk me through it, I did expect the loan officer to explain to me, to walk me through it, and just to make sure I'm comfortable with the payments. Just because you qualify doesn't mean you're comfortable with the payments. I don't think anybody wants to be house poor. I was actually house poor at once. Yes, not fun. No vacations, no dinners out.
Yeah, but you still have a house, which is like, really good in terms of just, just right now, in this market. And I guess what would you want real estate agents to know about mortgage brokers?
I think real estate agents, I have to say, I always try to give a bit of knowledge to real estate agents in terms of the basics. You just have to know enough to be dangerous. In other words, you have to know what types of loans are out there. For example, a lot of realtors don't know there are reverse mortgage purchases. You can actually purchase a home with a reverse mortgage if the owners are 62 years old and over. And there are, of course, you can actually start at 55, but it's just a different type of reverse mortgage. But I think it will give the realtors a leg up if they know what types of loans are out there and maybe just ask some preliminary questions, just like a loan officer would. That way, when they pass the customer off to the loan officer, they can give them a little highlight about the customer. And that would really help us as well.
Yeah, that's great. And, as you know, the housing market's been crazy so far. What are your thoughts as of this recording? It's May 2022. What are your thoughts so far on the housing market right now?
Well, let's see, about 10 years later, you're going to hold me to it, right?
No, 10 years. I don't even know if Zoom's going to exist. I don't even know if YouTube's going to be a thing. Who knows,
That's true. Well, I think that's hard to say, but right now it's still a seller's market. I hear all the time from realtors there are multiple offers for one house. And the good thing is, I don't think there's going to be an extreme recession like there was back in 2008. The reason we had that is because the banks were loaning out money to people that didn't qualify. That really doesn't happen much anymore. Everybody is quite qualified depending on the types of loans. And of course, people are making more money now. People are very creative in how they make money, whether it's Bitcoins or stock market, things like that. But I don't think it's going to be too bad in terms of a recession if we do have one. But home prices aren't going to go down anytime soon, not drastically. Maybe a little bit of reduction here and there.
Right. That's awesome to know. And how do you suggest us to keep up to date with the different types of loans? Should we talk to mortgage brokers? Like, is there some place we can read about it? How can we stay up to date and educated?
Great way to stay up to date really is probably like watch Bloomberg or just read up on it on the internet. And if you have a favorite loan officer, call your loan officer.
Awesome. And I'm definitely going to call you. I'm going to harass you about all the different new loans. No, just kidding.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I enjoy getting calls from you anyways, Lee.
I love it. Awesome. And then how can we get in contact with you? What's the best way to reach out to you to maybe get a pre-qual? Like how can we get started?
Sure, you can give me a call at 213-248-1230, or my website is CaitlinChen.com, which is
Awesome.
CAITLIN, Chen, CHEN.com.
Love it. Super easy to remember. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on this. I really enjoyed it and hope to have you on future shows to come.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you for having me.